can't tell you, even as a tattoo artist, how many arguments I've had over cleanliness. Even just little things like face mask. I remember I worked with a guy who told me that wearing a face mask was silly and unnecessary and that it would be too expensive to maintain. 12 cents a mask. I'm really not going to miss that. I did attend APP twice, and I definitely took away as much as I could from that. It's a little different applying it to tattooing, especially considering the difference in materials that we work with, and there's not as much available for that, but I mean, there are a lot of things we could do that are better than what the standard line of acceptable is, so why not just do them?
6 years ago I would have said it was perfectly fine. However, one of the main differences between the suspension community and the piercing community is the level of thoroughness, and a lot of piercers definitely go that extra step, but you don't really notice it so much until you go into the suspension community. Once I became a suspension practitioner, I really started rethinking a whole lot as far as sterilization, single use, and things like that. Honestly, it comes down to the price median between what is financially viable versus what just seems to be a good idea. In suspension, we get a little bit more leeway with it because there's a higher profit margin, well, depending on what you charge, but there's a greater tolerance for not using supplies, treating everything as disposable, like throwing shackles away after you use them or not sharing hooks between people. Whereas when it comes down to reusing tools in a piercing environment, something like a taper would go in a couple hundred people before it's finally considered, you know, trash. How far do you go with that? Because when you reprocess things, you can only clean them so well. Simple bacteria or viruses like HPV is completely resistant to any form of chemical cleanser right now, I think, other than bleach. So most of the stuff used in hospitals, piercing studios, tattoo studios, anything like that, isn't actually even killing HPV. And then there's things like prions, which are completely inactive, inert, and cannot be killed. So it comes to that point where you really have to balance how safe your tools are versus what it costs you to replace them every time. So if we follow that to the T, it actually becomes completely non-viable to tattoo or pierce to keep it completely safe.